Hey guys, my name's Cecilia and welcome if this is your first time, or welcome back if this isn't your first time. Today we're going to be rewinding back to March of 2019. This is the process for the first half of March. Starting out with the title card, I wanted to use the Shamrock card, probably from Studio Calico, because if you don't use it in March, when are you going to use it, right? The Cork and Gold March is from Studio Calico from 2018. All the cards that I used for journaling on this spread are old, and I couldn't tell you where they're from exactly. They're probably all from Studio Calico or Kelly Perky, and I chose them for this spread because they complement each other. They either have the light green, the pink, or both. For the journaling on this spread, I chose to print it on vellum. Whenever I type out my journaling, I usually do it in Photoshop if it's going to be on a plain background like on the vellum, or if it's going to be on a photograph. If it's going to be on a card I design like in the following page, then I use Illustrator to design the card and to write out the journaling. This first journaling card, entitled "What Was That?" was a story about the first time I heard a loud boom, or rather two booms, which sounded like explosions. In my craft room, there's a French balcony door, so I looked out and everybody was going about their business outside on the street. And I looked around and there was no smoke to be seen from our house. I checked all these windows, nothing. I came to find out that it was most likely a controlled detonation. So we live in Germany and they're still finding bombs from World War II. Or it could have been a sonic boom. We live near an American air base, so it is possible. It's hard to tell, but the photo on the left is from when we went cross-border grocery shopping in France. We kept hearing about this store called Cora's and we just had to go and check it out. We didn't really like that location as much, but we went to a different one and that was so much better. The craft paper labels I used on this spread are from the Target dollar spot from a long time ago. I like that they're very neutral. The gold heart is from Felicity Jane. And the white alphas are from Kelly Perky. I chose to add gold accents to this page because of the gold in the March. Now the two photos on the bottom were taken 10 minutes apart. It was incredibly windy that day and I was FaceTiming with my mom, and so I pulled up my camera because my phone just did not do justice to that beautiful rainbow. And as we kept talking, the wind kept blowing the clouds away, and so we were left with just a few, and it was a magnificent sunset. After a crazy February for me where I went on 3 different trips in 3 different countries, in March we only went on 1 trip. So on the second page is where our trip to Schaffhausen in the Swiss Alps began. I didn't end up using this tag, which is from In a Creative Bubble, the Let It Snow elements. I was originally going to do a little bit of journaling in the card, but then I decided to go with the Hello Snow tag from the Crate Paper Snow and Cocoa collection. I used some of the ephemera from this collection, and while it's no longer available for purchase online, for the physical product, you can buy the digital pack on American Crafts Digital. I do know where this card is from. It's a beautiful mess. Yeah, I tend to hoard cards, but isn't it so perfect? My plan was to have the town that we stayed in, Schaffhausen, on the card, but who really knows where that is, right? I'd never heard of it before we went on this trip, and it sounds a little French to me. So instead, I went with putting Swiss Alps on there. I originally was thinking about going with the white Kelly Perky alphas, but then I went with my favorite gold alphas that are American Craft and that I got from Target. And I just got another stash because they're so versatile. Yeah, I love the way that this card turned out. For the next journaling card, I used the color blocking of the journaling card to my advantage so that I could have two separate stories on one card. The first story was about how the trip had been in the works for a little while, but we hadn't actually booked our travel until really late in the game, and so we were stuck taking the train in, which was about 8 hours. But we had our iPads and our Switches, so we could pass time without an issue. The second one was about how we finished Super Mario Party while we were waiting for our friend to arrive. Now for this journaling card, I didn't measure it carefully so that I would know exactly how much space I had for the bottom section. So I trimmed the vellum so that it would fit perfectly. I would have redone it and reprinted it, but I just wanted to work with what I had. And the reason for the big space at the top is so that I could use some kind of title on it. So I used a stamp that says "Let's Go on an Adventure" from the Ready to Roam stamp set from Feature Craft. And I should note that whenever I am stamping on vellum, I always use my StazOn ink because otherwise I've had issues with the ink not drying and smudging. So I'd rather just use my black StazOn and not worry about it. I kind of wish that I had planned it out better and had left myself some space on the left to add something like the train stamp, but I didn't, so we move along. I did this spread back in December, so I had my December daily stuff handy, and I pulled out a sticker of a few pine trees from Ali Edwards, and I believe these are old ones, and I stapled the vellum to the card. Even though the color blocking was separating the two stories, I wanted to make it abundantly clear that the one below was about the picture on the left side. So I looked for some arrows, small arrows, narrow arrows, some hearts, a star, but then finally I found a little triangle that could work, and so I trimmed a little bit so that it could fit in that tiny little spot. So I adhered it, and I was extra happy because it was gold. I was about to put the card in its pocket when I spotted these cork and gold pine trees from Ali Edwards and knew that they would look so great. If only I could find one that was the right size. The one that I chose had a smidge of gold, and that was fine by me. I mean, it went with the march, so that was fine. I glued it down with some Tombow adhesive, and it finally made it into the pocket. I had remembered seeing some cork and gold stars as well, but I couldn't find them, so I decided to put a placeholder star so that I would remember that it needed to be switched out at some point when I did find them. I don't usually do many photos of food anymore. However, the pizza at this place that we went to in Champoussin was a bit strange. It was a 3-topping pizza, but instead of putting all the toppings all over the pizza, they divided the pizza into 3 sections and put 1 topping in each section. Alright, so moving on to this last photo of the spread, I wanted to add something to this photo, and I'm thinking that the epic stamp from the Ready to Roam stamp set from Feature Craft would be perfect because the view from the apartment was pretty awesome. Now I have 2 pads of StazOn ink. One works and one not so much. And I never know which one is which, and I should have thrown out the old one, but I always forget which one is which, and I'm afraid to throw out the good one. So I had used the old one, and I should have noticed when I did the stamp test, but I didn't. And I didn't like the way that the epic looked, and so I decided to try to cover it up with a circle icon, and I don't remember where these are from exactly. I felt like the poor little circle icon was a little too lonely, and I wanted to add the stamp, but I failed. So we reprinted the photo and stamped it again, and it was still a little too inky, but you know what? Let's call it a day on that one. The Super Mario Party photo felt like it needed some kind of description on it, even though it had the journaling over on the right side, and so I wanted to add the word Super Mario Party to it. I really wanted to make sure that everything fits, so I think I measured the height of the letters and the height of the space, and I went ahead and put super on there. But then when it came to the M and the P, I wanted to make sure that they fit before I actually went ahead and added all of those letters. So it fit, and it actually fit really nicely that it kind of created a little bit of a block, which I really liked. Okay, so now we're moving on to another day, and I found the cork and gold stars, so we are adhering that right there using some red line tape. Okay, so moving on to our second day in the Swiss Alps, and the plan was to give snowboarding a try, and that is what this spread is all about. I designed the snowy card, the snow adventure card, and the card with the journaling, and those will be available for download below and on my blog. I paired the snowy card with some cute mountains from the Crate Paper Snow and Cocoa ephemera set, and I adhered it with foam dots on the outside of the pocket for a little bit of a dimension. In the middle, you'll see the logo for the ski school, and we actually got a pamphlet from the school, and I wanted to use the logo, but it was too big and it was not on the website, so I scanned the pamphlet and I cleaned it up a little bit in Photoshop and printed it to 3x4. On the Snow Adventures card, I journaled about my experience snowboarding, which didn't go so well, but you know what? I tried, and that's all that matters. So we'll skip over the journal card because that was just about what happened on Friday, and like I said, that's going to be available for download below. I didn't really like the photo that was there on the top right, so I changed it out for the one from the view from our balcony towards the other chalets, and that same mountain was on the other photo, but from a different view. I love the filler card with the little mountains and the people skiing and the little pine trees. It was perfect, and I wanted a sentiment on it, so I really love this life because it's incredible to me that we would be in the Swiss Alps. And I also really liked it because it went with the orangey red in the filler card. So previously I had gotten the Let It Snow elements from In a Creative Bubble, and I imported the PDF into the Silhouette software and traced them and did a print and cut. The wintertime tag is one of the elements, and I absolutely love tags, but this time it just didn't fit. I really wanted the sentiment on it, so I cut it down to size. And the reason I was so adamant about using one of the trimmers is because I suck at cutting straight lines. They are always crooked, and I'm just gonna blame that on my astigmatism. I added a little puffy sticker to this photo on the top right, and that's because it just felt a little bit blah, and I wanted a little something on there. Now that the main things are done, I look at everything all together and wonder if I could add anything, so out come the stamps. The first one was by Kelly Perky, and the second one was Feature Craft. This stamp says this is going to be an adventure from Kelly Perky's Departure stamp set. And I stamped it on some white cardstock with Memento ink. The name of it is London Fog, and I would say that that's probably my favorite color. Can I just cut in for a second and talk about how cute the Travel Tunes tape card is? That's what sucks about having double-sided cards that are so different. It's so cute, but nowadays it's travel podcasts, so I don't really see myself using it anytime soon. Back to regular programming, I stapled and adhered the strip of cardstock because the tiny attacher doesn't reach all the way to the other side. I mean, I could unfold it and then staple it and then bend the little staples, but it's too much of a hassle, and this worked. Moving on to the photo of the fondue, I found out on this trip that the Swiss fondue has wine in it, and I had no idea. What happened was that we stopped at a grocery store on our way up the mountain, and we got some groceries and snacks for our trip. They had these cute little containers of cheese fondue, you know, like individual size yogurt containers that you basically pop in the microwave to heat up. And when I was having it, I was like, this tastes a little different, and that's when our friend told us about the wine. So when in Switzerland, gotta try the cheese fondue at a restaurant. It was amazing and so filling. The stamp that I used here is from the Feature Craft Let's Eat stamp set. It says this was so good, and it was so on point, right? And on the video you can clearly see it in white, but in person it didn't look so good. So I printed out the photo again, and I lightened it a little bit. And then I stapled the cardboard strip onto the photo. After dinner, we went back to the apartment and we played some Cards Against Humanity, which is always a great time. I liked the So Much Fun overlay, but I felt like it was too big, and with the black on black, it wasn't very visible. So I found these stickers by Studio Calico that said the same thing, but they were smaller and they fit perfectly. Quite often, Amici's was our meeting spot because it was halfway between the lifts and the apartment, and I wanted to include it in there, but I didn't feel like it fit. A quick look to see if there's anything else I could add. As usual, I printed some 6x8 photos to use in between some spreads. This one is the view from our balcony on the second day. It was total whiteout conditions. Winter Wonderland definitely defined this, so it was going to be stamped on the photo. So I cut out a bit of the footage from the video because it's already long enough, but basically I tested 3 inks: Ali Edwards Otter, Versamark ink in Ocean Depth, and Kelly Perky's Urban. I went with the Versamark ink in Ocean Depth. I tried to get it as straight as I possibly could using the T ruler, and then I cropped it down to size. I pulled out one of the 2 slopes maps we got. I wish it could have fit entirely extended, but it was clearly too big. So I just cut out the part that showed where we were. I looked on the back since there was an enlarged area of where we were, but Champoussin was too far on the left and it included the circles. So I just went with the other side that was a little bit more zoomed out. I marked it with the pencil where I wanted to cut it. Then I used scissors to narrow it down. Finally, I used the trimmer to get as close as possible. Once I adhered it together, I then went ahead and trimmed a little bit of excess that was left with the scissors. I felt like I needed to mark Champoussin on the map, so I pulled out all my stars and I got a red one. I didn't record myself doing this, but I added a white post-it tab and wrote the date that the picture was taken, and I added it to the page protector. Okay, that's all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and click the thumbs up below, and if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Coming up next will be the second half of March 2019. Bye!